Eastwind really throws up a mirror at you. And like, even within those first couple weeks, like, I had that mirror, like, boom, there's the mirror right there. You're doing this, you better stop. Like, this is a detractor from your personality. This is a thing you need to work on. Over the winter at Eastwind, drama fucking builds, and it builds and builds and builds because everyone is in and there's no new energy going, and this just completely dissipated that. Food was the reason that I stayed there for 2 years. Like, I stuck it out because people cooked my food every night, and I helped cook some of that food every night, and I helped process some of the food that other people cooked later that night for my dinner, and I helped build the fucking fences that housed the plants and the animals that people took care for to make my food, to cook my dinner, and like, I like the machine. I saw the machine, like the gears, and oh man, I loved that. I regret that. Had I been able to do it all over again, if I could do it all over again, I would have changed here, and I would have, all the dramas that would have gone on, I would have just let them, here you go, you can have it. You know, you can, this thing I feel incredibly passionate about, this thing that I'm like, so drawn to, that makes me want to get up in the morning, that brings the breath of life into my body, I would have said, you can have it. And I would have gone off and I would have worked with Otto, and I would have worked with Steve. Here we go.
Yourself and tell us where we are.
Hi, I'm Ubi. We are currently, I guess, in Pennsylvania. I moved away from Eastwind 2 months ago. I think just about 2 months ago.
Where were you born and how were you raised?
I was born in Sydney, Ohio, in a little town, about 10,000 people. It had a Walmart and a Waffle House, and that's about it. And I was raised there for 20-something years, 21 years. And then I moved to Toledo, Ohio. I lived in my first community in Toledo.
What was the setup? A co-housing setup, or what was going on there?
It was more of a co-housing setup. I mean, now that I understand what all these terms are, I didn't really know what the term was at the time. I was just broke and needed a cheap place to live. You can look it up. It's called the Collingwood Arts Center, artist community. And it's no longer there. The building is there, but it was like this old, I don't know, it started out as like a nun's convent, like 2 or 3 years before electricity was invented, and then, yeah, super old. I don't know, there was some weird legal thing that happened. It got abandoned, but not actually abandoned because people were squatting there, and there's some weird squatters' rights things going on, but yeah, there's about 30 people there. Living on 4 floors of this community, and then there was like a little front building as well. I lived on the 4th floor initially. I lived there for about a year, 11 and a half months, 12 months, maybe just under a year. To get in, you had to prove that you were a working artist and not just, somebody looking for a cheap place to live. So I played the trumpet. I played the trumpet for about 23 years now. Then it was, far less than 23, but I was also, like I was telling you earlier, a working photographer. So I like showed them some of my work that I was working as this photographer, and hey, I'm also a musician. I was in a band and all that kind of stuff. And they said, yeah, come on and live. It was great.
Cool.
It was a fun life. I might have been working 2 jobs. Yeah, because I was working at UPS, and I was also... in addition to UPS, I was working as a photographer, like I said. And so I did that, went to school full time, and lived at the CAC. So it was basically just like, I didn't feel very connected because I was too busy.
Right.
Just doing other stuff.
And you graduated from school in 2010?
I think 2012.
2012.
Yeah, I think 2012. After Toledo, I met a woman, and we moved to Philadelphia, and I lived in West Philly for a while, and then when we broke up, I moved to Horsham. Then I moved to Eastwind in Missouri, and now I moved back here to North Wales.
But yeah, what did you get into after school, working life? How did all that go?
Got a degree in marketing, business administration and marketing. Didn't really know what to go for, so I just did that. Why not? And let's see here. After I moved to Philly, I struggled to find a job for like 6 months or something like that. I was working as a landscaper, like a part-time landscaper, and then I was like, then I cut up vegetables at Chubby's Cheesesteaks in Roxborough for a couple months, and then I worked at Whole Foods, and I did like other like, I don't know, day labor gigs or whatever for like 6 or 8 months until I landed a gig at Comcast. And that was like, it was like my first big boy office job. Late 2013, beginning of 2014, I think is when I landed the gig at Comcast.
And how long were you there?
Right up until I went to Eastwind, so up until 2020.
Okay, so you were developing a career.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, it was IT. I started off it was just a phone call center or whatever, you know. People call in and bitch about their internet or their phones or their television not working, and I'd set them right. I was pretty good at it. I've always been pretty good at IT, so it was it wasn't exactly easy, but it was, and I could do the work. Eventually, I got promoted to executive customer relations, and I was like handling. Anytime anybody went to the CEO's office, any of the vice presidents, any of the C-level execs, anytime they went to the FCC, the Better Business Bureau, the Public Utility Commission of any state, the Attorney General's office of any state, anytime they had their lawyer send Comcast Business, because I worked for Comcast Business, anytime they sent us a nicely worded request, they would get to me. And I was leader of that team for 3 years. I'm thinking 3 years or something like that. Yeah. I worked on our quality team as well. I say our. I worked on their quality team as well.
We're still part of the Comcast family here. We're still part of the Comcast
Fuck
family.
that shit. Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. Oh, right. I worked on the quality team, so I like listened to people's phone calls, like other agents in the call center, and I would like grade them, and I'd like go over their desk and I'd like coach them and like, hey, this is maybe how you could have done this better. Here's maybe a tool or like this is how TCP/IP works. This is how the hybrid fiber coax cable network that Comcast uses, and it links into the backbone of like going along the East Coast. And since we did Central Division, I brought a map with me and showed where the backbone of the internet was, and I had this like, and I would like bring up like a whole bunch of tools and like explain things. It was like a 30 or 45-minute thing when agents were like, I want to know more information, and they'd be like, go over there, Kevin, Ubi, go over there. They didn't call me Ubi then, but Kevin, go over there. And so I'd be the guy that just would go over and like explain shit to people that wanted to know more, or you know. If they didn't, then I would just leave after 5 minutes, you know?
So you knew the job inside out. You had done
really,
it.
really well.
And you went above and beyond.
Yeah.
And you were...
They paid me really well.
Right. They're paying you well. You're managing people and okay. You're doing well in your career.
Yeah.
Making money. Things going well in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through, when did the edges start to fray, or when did you think, I don't want to continue doing this?
So... my partner and I had split up for 3.5 years at this point, and this was end of 2019. No, hold on. The story starts, I think, in early 2019. So there's a guy on my team that got promoted to manager, and he got promoted to manager of the team. The manager of my team. I was team lead, but he was in managing. Management is different from team lead. It's a whole thing at Comcast. So he was part of management. He was part of the team, and then he got promoted over me to management. And yeah, and so I didn't really we didn't get along very well. I guess afterward, he didn't speak to me very respectfully. I talked to him about it a lot, and I actually started it got to be so bad where I was taking notes and talking to HR and yeah, this needs to stop. I was seeking therapy. I was going through medication, and not only that, but the metric standards for how my job was graded changed so drastically over a 1 year period that it was just I would get off work some nights. And I would just fucking lay there and stare at the ceiling, and I would sometimes cry. I would just be I would stop answering phone calls from customers who I had to work with. I would stop doing my job just because I didn't want to do this anymore, because the metric standards were just so ridiculously difficult to do, and it just pushed me. I can work hard and I can work a lot, but that just pushed me to my absolute mental limit where I was able to do that job. And finally I just broke, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to find something else. And for that whole 2019 year, I started to look for another job. I started to post out internally. Hey, I want to go to this other department. I've got glowing recommendations from everyone, but my job is Comcast snitch. People come to me when customers come to me when they want to complain that something isn't being done. They go to the CEO. Anybody I talked to said, I want to speak to your manager. I've been called worse than cancer. I've been called every name in the book 1,000 times over. I have been yelled at. I have been made fun of. It was just from my boss, from management, from customers, and everything was just screwing down tighter and tighter and tighter, and the lid on this jar just broke, and I just couldn't do it any longer. I just couldn't do it. And so I talked to my therapist. I was like, I want to get out of this. Is when I remember one day he asked me when did you last time you felt happy, kind of like this? And it's well, when I lived at this commune before. That was a really cool part of my life. He's like, well, reach out back to them. What are they like now? And so I reached out to the Collingwood Arts Center in Toledo. They'd gone defunct then, but that got me thinking, that's communal living. All these people live together, and we work together, and part of my thing at communally was to show art and to sell things for the art center, and I played jazz for that art center, and I helped clean for that art center, and I thought, a communal living. It was in the city, so there was no farming or anything, but it was that communal spirit just really kept me I really want to do that. I really, it drove me to look for friends, look for community. And I was part of the Comcast cycling crew at the time. It's a long distance cycling crew. We can get into it later, but that was a big sense of community for me. And I thought, let's go back into living communally. Let's do that. And I talked to my therapist about it. And over a couple of months, my therapist was you make sure this isn't a cult. And we talked about it. We mulled that sucker over. We mulled that idea over for a long time. And so, how I found out about Eastland was a post on Reddit by Boone. the ephemeral post on Reddit. It said something to the effect of, hey, I've lived at a hippie commune for 4 years, AMA. And I asked him a series of questions. I think it was mostly about finances, mostly about the work and stuff like that, because I read the website pretty heavily, and I looked at reviews. I reached out to Eastwind in March 2020. So Mosh was membership manager. He said, you can come in October. And so October 2020 was my visitor period.
That was when you actually...
Yes.
So you first contacted in March,
March.
and then you made arrangements.
Well, they were locked down for the middle of 2020.
Oh, right.
And they set me up, apparently before I got there, East went through some pretty crazy stuff with COVID, lockdowns, and there was like, I don't know, there's
the initial insanity of,
sure,
of COVID. Yeah.
Here, whatever they did, I don't know. I heard stories about it. People wrote things on the backboard. I never actually read all of it. I'd never paid attention to much of it. I heard stories like people were quarantined. Anybody that had to go off the farm was like quarantined, but then nobody was bringing food to the quarantine people. Nobody was bringing medical care to the quarantine people. Nobody was... these are the stories that I've heard. I don't know actually what happened in real life because I wasn't there. But and then this I learned maybe about a year ago. This is well after I came to Eastwind.
Get set up for October 2020.
Mm-hmm.
How do you spend that time in the interim?
Quit my job in August. I didn't trade anything till later, but I quit my job in August and I went to visit my family for a month in Ohio. Stayed with my uncle, saw my mom. She cried and said, "Don't go live with the cult. Don't go live with the cult." And I was like, "Mom, it's not a cult. It's not a cult. And if so, I'm just gonna leave. If I get cult vibes, I'm just going." And I visit with some people in Toledo that I knew for a month or 3 weeks or whatever. And then I drive from Toledo to Tecumseh. My visitor period. How do I want to say this? I remember it being very difficult, or not difficult. I remember it being very different. Living very differently than I had ever lived. It was for example, on that visitor questionnaire that they give you in order to come to Eastwind, one of the questions was, what do you do for self-care? And I had never heard the term self-care before. So I thought, self-care? Do they want to know how I bathe? So I described how I bathed. So, I don't know. I didn't know what to answer in that case.
In that manner.
I understand what self-care means now. But then I just thought the question was just how do you bathe? And I thought, living with people, living with 70 people, you're going to want to make sure that, everybody's on the same schedule and not stinky. And I thought that was a pretty poignant question, so I answered. And so on my visitor questionnaire, it showed, I probably still have it if you want it, but it shows I describe how I bathe. I remember giving a really fake smile a lot of the time. I would I'd walk around like that, just to try and please people, just to stay there, because I wanted to fucking live there. I wanted to live there really badly, just because I wanted to try it. And
you're 31 or 30?
I was 32 at the
32
time.
when you first visited. Okay.
Yeah. I remember putting on a really fake smile and trying to people please, and I remember that facade was seen through pretty friggin' quickly. The social dynamics eat you up, and so I remember the 2 weeks in, I was out. I knew I was going to be concerned out, and and so I think there was a bluegrass jam on the porch of the music room. So I brought my banjo over and I fucking rocked the house. It was great. There was people playing mandolin and guitar and fiddle, and I was the only one playing the banjo. And from that moment, I was I can do this. And I was just cool for the last week.
Okay.
It just kind of clicked. Being cool clicked. Eastwind itself, how everything links together and the way the community works didn't click until much later. But I remember that that bluegrass jam was like the moment where it was like, yeah, I'm staying. And I think where people kind of accepted me as and I kind of stopped giving that fake smile, and people started chatting with me, and it was a good moment. It was a lot of people there too, so that was really cool. It's like sink or swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone kind of walks in with their baggage to some degree, and you in a nice
Oh yes.
active performance and cooperative music making, you kind of you started to relax.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Eastwind really throws up a mirror at you, and like even within those first couple weeks, like I had that mirror, like boom, there's the mirror right there, and it was like, hey, Ubi, you're doing this. Kevin, you're doing this. You gotta let's the guy I went by Kevin during visitor period, changed it to Ubi later, and it was like, hey, you're doing this. You better stop. Like this is a detractor from your personality. This is the thing you need to work on. And I was pretty wound up at the moment too. I was pretty heavily on SSRIs, and I was like I said, I was a month removed from one of the worst jobs I've ever had, like super stressful. And yeah, I just relaxed from that moment on. Yeah, I got through the visitor period. I don't really remember much else about my visitor period. Do you have any other questions about that? Any ideas?
Yeah, you also just talked about how different things were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things that instantly come to mind are
pooping in buckets,
shitting in a bucket.
Yeah.
Maybe cleanliness standards are a little bit different.
No.
Okay.
No, that was pretty. I was on that level.
Okay.
More or less. I mean, you've seen my apartment. You see how dirty this is.
Sure. How did you like the food?
Oh my God, the food was the reason after 3 weeks, the food was the reason that I stayed there. The food was the reason that I stayed there for 2 years. Like, I stuck it out because people cooked my food every night, and I helped cook some of that food every night, and I helped process some of the food that other people cooked later that night for my dinner, and I helped build the fucking fences that housed the plants and the animals that people took care for to make my food, to cook my dinner. And like I like the machine, I saw the machine, like the gears, and oh man, I loved that. That was the coolest thing. So everything for me like tied into like communal living and like being closer to my food. And like that was the thing that stuck me to Eastwind for 2 years.
It's a beautiful thing.
Oh my God. You can't get that anywhere else. You can't get it anywhere else. It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, a lot of it's Cisco, yeah, but a lot of it's not too. Richard's fucking killing it. He's killing it in that garden. And like whoever's ranch manager, they're killing it. Like
those corn tortillas.
Oh, yeah.
It's a special thing
right
there.
Possum's corn tortillas are incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't. And the dent corn, the Ozark dent corn that Richard makes some of the best corn tortillas. Yeah.
I wasn't there, but I understanding those moments that have, playing the banjo with people,
Yeah. Yeah, going to the creek naked, like wearing a skirt for the first time was like freeing. And then like people came in later, people came up to me later and were like, Ubi, the first time I met you, you were wearing a skirt. You wore a skirt more often than you didn't. And I was like, yeah, this is one thing that I was like freeing for myself. Oh, you want to talk about the Eastwind mirror? That people pleasing. If I learned anything about myself, the Eastwind mirror threw up at me, it was that my people pleasing was causing my pain, and still does to this day. I am so much better at it now than I was 2 years ago, but it's still just like ingrained in me. If I took away if I took away any, I don't know, solid lesson, or if I took away anything, any one good thing from Eastwind, it is people pleasing, and like not to people please, but how I was doing it and the ways I was doing it, and how it affects my life, and how it affects my psyche, and how it affects people around me, and how it affects society, and how it affects everything, and like how fake it is, and like how just futile like that is. Like you cannot pour from an empty cup. So it's like that was one thing that I was just giving too much on personally. Yeah, there was a single person I can thank for that at Eastwind, for showing me that mirror.
Would you like to thank that person?
Cody. Cody, thank you. You're an incredible person. Thank you. Yeah. Like.
A lot of that really resonates with me, and I think it goes way back. I think it goes way back to being a kid and such. But it's like, I want to be a good boy,
yeah,
and I want to make sure I'm an achiever, and it didn't necessarily lead me to be fake in my personality or how I interacted with people, but it that aspect pushed me to, okay, I need to work. Like, I want to make people like me. And to do that here, I'm just gonna bust my ass all the time.
All the time. Yep.
And I'm gonna show my love to the community by busting my ass.
Yep.
And
yep. Oh, say it again. Say it slower. That is exactly what I did for 2 years. Busted my fucking ass. I left Eastwind with 900 extra hours. Over 2 years. I actually gave those hours away. Because I'm not going back. There's no way I'm going back. And if I go back, I know how to do shit. So it's just like, I'll just make those hours easy.
It's fun to give them away, isn't it?
What?
It's fun to give them away at the end, right?
That the depth of my people pleasing goes so hard that I picked up the overnight mopping gig. And I did the overnight mopping HTA for a year straight, 52 times, once a week.
You mean evening counters and floors?
No, floors meta. I was floors meta. I mopped the floor. I took the mats out. I sprayed all the mats off. I scrubbed the floor with a deck brush. Yeah. This is the depth that I go to. I went fucking hard for a year. And then after a year, after my full member vote went in, I think I did it 1 or 2 more times, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, so I stopped. So, yep, that was the first time. That was the first time I gave up work. Just was like, drop, and I don't.
You didn't have anyone take it over.
I mean, I put up a note.
Yeah.
As is tradition.
What big things did you see that were, such as the kitchen floor? What was not being done, and with your skills, etc., that you had coming in, where did you see, I can really put my energy into this area, and that's really gonna help the whole community?
The first thing I saw was IT. So the IT area, when I arrived, there was another IT manager at the time. That person and I, that IT manager and I, and actually the IT area had become Trustardy 2, basically. Everybody took all their tech trash and sometimes just junk and just threw it on the IT area downstairs, downstairs from the Nutbutts office. And it was just tables covered in just tech trash, junk, old computer parts, broken hard drives, just junk, circuit boards, wires. And so this other person and I decided that we would clean. And so we cleaned up that entire area. And I found that all of Eastwind's systems, I took every single computer part that I could possibly take in that entire farm, in 1,000 acres, I took every computer part and tried to mash it into some computer, some form of working desktop, as any way as I could possible. And I got, I think 3 more or 2 more computers working. I think I put them up in one of the domestic lofts or something like that. But those were like backups, because a lot of those computers had tons of problems. Eventually, this other person and I decided to reformat all the computers, so we brought everything up to Windows 10, and I started a sort of like sysadmin level of I had like a special thumb drive that I would walk around with, and it had like every kind of tool imaginable, like a virus scanner and like installs and programs and settings, and it was just like an automatic configuration thing for each one of the computers at Eastwind. So I reformatted every device, I redid their entire network, and right at the very end of my visitor period, all this stuff was happening while I was doing my visitor period and afterward, but 2 days before the end of my visitor period, the Nutbutts server dies. Like, all the data for our entire business goes down. The hard drive dies because there's no backup. Everything's screwed. And so...
Tole didn't have a backup? I thought he had the backups. Who has the backups? Okay.
Well, so I took 2 weeks off after my visitor period ended. I took 2 weeks to close out my life in Philadelphia. I moved back to Horsham. I got my U-Haul. This is where the U-Haul comes in. I got my U-Haul. I sold or gave away or threw or trashed or traded or whatever, as much stuff as I could. Picked up all my tools and my special crap and my instruments and everything. And I put it into a U-Haul and I drove to Eastwind. That took 2 weeks. I also brought my cat. That was another thing. And because my cat was like staying with my uncle, and it was a whole thing. I won't get into it. But yeah, I brought everything back to Eastwind. So Nutbutts was down without a server for 2 weeks while I was gone. Yeah. So
it was not getting solved right away.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I tried to contact this other person that I was working with, and they were off grid and they didn't have a phone, and I couldn't get a message to anyone. And I called, and like whoever answered CP was just like, yeah, it's it's whatever. We'll get it when you get back. And they were just so nonchalant about it. Like, the business, all of the information for the entire business is down, and they're nonchalant about it. Like, I think a couple people were kind of lighting a little bit of a fire, but I didn't get any text messages. No one emailed me. I got nothing. There's no expectation of me coming back. So,
and if you're off the phone, you kind of don't exist.
Pretty much.
Kind of how it works.
Yeah, actually, that's a really great point. Yeah.
For better or for worse.
And so I come back after 2 weeks of closing out my life in Philadelphia and getting my cat in Ohio and driving back, and we get the server back up. We sent the hard drive away to have the data from this data service fixed, and then I got this like Dell Blade or something. I can't even remember what it was, but it has like this 8-bay thing that allows like a RAID 0 backup. I'm solving this problem, and I'm picking up breadcrumbs because the network, like, I didn't realize the depth, because at that point I'd only been at Eastwind for 3 weeks. I had to get all of my my Oreos done. I had to like learn the farm. I went on the land walk. I'm doing all this stuff and learning all this stuff, and I didn't really understand the depth of how terrible the network was set up. There were so many mishmash of 1,000-yard cables here and there and going all over the place, and like there were 2 computers, one downstairs that was the shipping computer, and then there was another one upstairs that was like a customer data computer that was also a redundant thing that they hand went over
The redundant accounting.
The redundant
computer.
accounting thing that they have to do because they want to keep the server offline, and there's a way to do it, and I'm not going to get into that. Well, not yet. I will get into that, but
Efficiency isn't the most important thing.
yes, exactly. I rebuild the server. Long story short, we'll just hand wave all of the sleuthing I had to do into how the network worked. I figured it out, and we got the server back up and running. And this was 2 weeks after I arrived back at Eastwind. All the data had been given back to us. We got it back in this little secure drive. We put it on. I got all the systems set up. Business was back and running. Everybody's happy. So that was like within my first month at Eastwind, like the first major thing that I did.
There wasn't a known competent computers manager essentially, and you took that role essentially after you did this work.
Oh yeah. I was the one for pretty much the whole time I was there. Like I'm still getting text messages from the computer manager, and asking me some system settings and like, hey, why was this done? Why is our so like I would say that my master stroke, the things that the majority of the good things that I've done for Eastwind have been IT related.
When you were doing that nut butters work, that very important server work, were you given money or were you asking, hey, I need this amount of cable, I need this device, buy this thing? Like
buy this thing. This is my recommendation, buy this thing.
And they were like, okay, we're gonna buy this.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of support in that.
Right.
I think I vaguely recall like, okay, what's this going to do? And then I went into like like this entire interview, I've just been blah, 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 like overly explaining. So I probably went into like an over explanation.
Right.
To the person, and they were just like, yeah, whatever.
Okay, we get it.
Yeah, we get it. Like I got to control the budget, sure. And people came to. I actually instituted a thing where people would come to me if they needed a cable. Like you need a cable for your computer, you need a cable for your laptop, you need a cable for your phone. Come to me, computers will buy it for you. Like this is house buys razor blades for people. Kitchen buys some food, for people. All these departments buy these things for these people. Why can't computers buy things for people? So I instituted, yes, let's buy cables for people. So that was one of my small things. I bought parts, repaired things.
Okay, so your first month as a provisional member, you do a significant amount of work to fix the nut butter server. Mm-hmm. This is very important. And that was probably your first big taste of nut butters in general. And at some point you become the sales manager. So maybe, what was the path to like getting more involved in the nut butters office?
I think I was just working with the general manager and the sales and marketing manager, and those two hated each other. They were at each other's throat. And one of them like used to be the general manager, and one of them was like doing all the work because this other person was like not doing some of their work and fucking off some of the time. But then this other person over here that was doing a lot of the GM work and sales and marketing work was also like they were definitely overworked. They were definitely like ready to end it, and they just kind of approached me. I think that's how it went. Like, hey, you do this stuff, like you've got a degree in this. Do you want to maybe start trying to do some of this work? And I was like, yeah. And so I started going through like some of the contracts, if I remember right. And I think I started answering some of the emails for the wholesale email inbox, and calling customers. I think I did. I don't think I ever did any cold calling, but I think I may have done some warm calling. So I was brought on because the sales and marketing manager was doing the GM work and didn't want to do the sales and marketing work anymore. And I had a degree in sales and marketing, so I did that. Yeah. So that's, I know, a long-winded way of saying, yeah.
So you start getting in.
Start doing it.
And then you ran as sales manager by yourself. Mm-hmm. And you got elected. Mm-hmm. You ran unopposed. Probably.
I think I ran unopposed, yeah.
Okay. And then, so you're answering emails, you're dealing with the customers.
And this is as a PM. This is like a 6-month PM. This is July 2021.
Okay, you're elected.
I think so.
That sounds
Yes,
that sounds
yeah.
about right.
Yeah, I think that's about the time.
And
Mhm.
yeah, talk about being the Nut Butters sales manager.
Simple office job. I answered emails from the wholesale at eastwindnutbutters.com email address. I cleaned a lot of spam from previous sales and marketing managers signing up for things. I tried to work with our all of our like large customers. I tried because a lot of their systems were a little bit esoteric, and then a lot of my time was actually spent like just even unraveling what had happened. Like since the sales and marketing manager was also doing the GM job, and the GM was like in addition to doing both, like they were like it was ridiculous. Like most of my job was unraveling all of that giant mess and coagulating the information or congealing, whatever, putting it all in one space. I think the I mean, other than the infamous commercial, like most of the stuff I did was just like putting stuff into one space and getting it set up for the next person.
How long were you officially the sales manager?
I don't know. I don't know.
Less than a year.
Less than a year.
Okay.
I think less than 6 months.
And there was a deal made with Fox Business News.
Nope. There was a deal made with a third-party company. This third-party company, whose name I do not remember, they were an independent, like, what's it called? They were an independent film company, and they reached out to us, like, cold called us, and they were like, hey, we'd like to, we've seen a little bit about your stuff, we want to shoot a commercial. I looked around for a little bit, and the deal that they were giving us for the product and some of their previous work that they showed me was really, really good for the price that they were doing, per all of the other prices that I had looked up on some of the other, some of the other companies that could have done this for us. So I went to, this was after that other person became general manager.
You have a new general manager.
We have a new general manager.
The sickly former general manager was getting the help that they needed.
Yes.
And they kind of got off the farm, and we have a new general manager who had been a member for over 5 years at that point.
Yes, that person. And so I went to them and I asked them, so where Fox Business News comes in with this, well, let's get this story over with before I go into everything else. So one of the people that these that this company works with, they have a partnership with Fox Business News where they show their product, their commercial on Fox Business News, and they work all over the country with all these little small businesses and show them on Fox Business News.
American-made stuff, American manufacturers,
yep.
Right? That's the basic gist.
The whole job of this company is to fly around the friggin' U.S. and like record U.S. businesses, and yes, Fox Business News was in there. Mm-hmm. In addition to other places, yes. And I thought, Fox Business News was they're friggin' evil. Let's get this straight. They're evil, but there is no ethical consumption in capitalism. So therefore, me doing a commercial being shown on Fox Business News is about the same as me, having a commercial shown on YouTube. Is the same as me having a commercial shown on, Nickelodeon, anything, any platform out there. So I said, yeah, let's look into something like this.
And you signed a contract. There was a package for that third-party film crew to come to Eastwind.
Yep.
And produce what were they to do? What were they to produce?
So before this, the big drama that surrounded it was that, oh, I didn't ask community's opinion.
This third-party film organization was going to come to Eastwind and for a set amount of money, $8,000.
I don't remember.
Okay. What exactly were they planning on doing or told you?
So the deal was that they would send a camera person to Eastwind who would film our business, daily working with our business, a day in the life of Eastwind Nut Butters, to be spliced and mashed into a commercial that would be shown on that place, on Fox Business News, amongst other places.
About 2 to 3 minutes.
I think so.
Commercial.
I think that was it.
Okay.
In addition, what really that general manager and I had discussed it really pretty heavily before I signed any documents.
Right. So
and the thing we were super happy about was we got all of the raw footage. That was the coolest part. So we could have spliced it for anything community made or anything community wanted to do. We could put small clips on our website. This was like the first step. This was the first step as sales and marketing manager. I thought I had the ability to market our product. And I thought, yes, let's get some B-roll. Let's get some A-roll. Let's get something out there to show people. Yes, we want to sell our product. Please, please, please take our peanut butter. So after going to the entire GMT, I talked with them over about a day.
And you were the sales manager.
Yes, I was the sales manager.
Which means
at
at Eastwind, just for the audience,
yeah,
you're the sales manager. You have the sole authority to write things out of the budgets associated with the sales manager.
Yep.
And that's, I don't know what it was at the time, but when I was sales manager, that could be anywhere from 10 to 25 grand a year. Mm-hmm. So you did have the authority to spend money. That's just what I'm trying to emphasize.
And in addition to that, sales and marketing manager is one of 2 elected positions. So there's GM and sales and marketing. Everything else is appointed. So not only, appointed. So not only was community happy with me being sales and marketing manager at the outset, like they elected me to do that job.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this cold call comes in.
Yep.
You take this proposal, you bring it to the general management team.
Yep.
You talk it over with everyone.
Yep.
So walk through the whole, without going into what the thing was, just walk through that process and what happened.
It was a really exciting day, actually. I think I got up to the office pretty early. I think they had sent the email maybe late the day before or 2 days before or something like that. I saw it. I talked with the people early, and I went through their process. I asked them a lot of questions. What's this, and then I did a lot of research for the rest of the morning. I think up until maybe 11 or noon or thereabouts. I looked around at what other companies were charging for what I would see as a similar product, which my idea was the product we're getting is, B-roll and a commercial for nut butts. I wasn't even thinking about Fox News, whatever, the free commercial, whatever.
So you thoroughly vet them.
I vet them as thoroughly as I think.
And you also compared what they were offering, what you're getting, to what other competitors could do. Okay?
Yes. And so maybe at noon, I hurried down to RB, and I think most of the GMTs out about on the community, and so I go ask the general manager, and I go ask the I can't even remember all the positions now.
But you talked to everyone who was
I talked to everyone on the GMT.
And what did you ask them?
I printed out the contract. I sat down with them. I said, "Hey, I've got a really cool thing that's happening. Can I go over this with you? maybe we could talk about this. And each one of them took time out of their day to sit down with me and to say, yes, that sounds like a great idea. And this wasn't like a 30-second like, oh yeah, that sounds good, whatever. This was like several minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, like by the end.
Yeah, you're explaining it all.
I'm explaining it all, and yes, and by the end of the day, I had talked with every single person on the GMT directly. Like, hey, can we do this? And each one of them, I got the blessing from the Pope. Go ahead, please. We're really cool with you doing this.
Or you had not gotten any significant concerns about this contract from anyone else on the general management team.
Affirmative.
You signed the contract.
Affirmative.
And what happened?
So I signed the contract, and things started to get real quick. It was basically like, oh man, a lot of it's a blur. Let me think here. So, how do I want to say what happened? So I signed the contract, and if I remember right, the community was pretty. I'm going to say, we're going to start off, and we can say that the community was initially incredibly upset. From the community, the reaction I received was an emergency meeting being called, and at RB, and then from one of the people on the GMT, that person also spread a rumor that I had contracted with Fox Business, or that I had contracted with Fox News to get a camera crew out there. So they took so what had happened, the game of telephone at Eastwind had happened from one person. I'm not going to name that person. I know who they are, but I'm not going to name that person. So the game of telephone happened from one person from the GMT, and they took me saying all of that about the third-party company, does this with other businesses, has been doing this for years, would give us all this great B-roll, would create a commercial for us, does partner with Fox Business, but they take all of that and they condense it to the rumor mill, the Eastwind Drunken rumor mill, as Ubi signed a contract for Fox News to come to Eastwind and bring cameras.
And we're paying them $8,000.
And we're paying them $8,000 to do so. Yep, that is what the emergency meeting was called for.
So, one of the people that you talked to and explained this entire plan to, spread misinformation about the whole deal.
Yep.
To the entire community.
Yep.
And that resulted in general outrage, and an emergency meeting was called.
An emergency meeting at RB was called, I think maybe a day or two later, to assess whether or not we would go through with it. Now, regardless, the money would still be spent.
We're tied into the contract, but people were talking about not even having them come out.
Oh yeah, and
right.
just paying them the money and just saying goodbye, just tossing the money, ripping it in half, burning it on fire, and just throwing it away. So because of the rumor mill that had happened, like Fox News is coming out with a camera crew, a whole giant camera crew, and that's what the meeting was about.
How did that meeting go?
That general manager, they stepped up to the plate and they took the blame for it. Yeah, they said, this was my deal. I'm GM, so I said yes to this. I said go for it. So they took the blame since I was a PM, and I will thank them forever for that. Yeah. Boone, thank you. Yeah.
You can use Boone's name. He doesn't mind. I know that.
Yeah. Thank you, Boone.
Okay. How did?
Yeah. So the meeting itself. Let's go to the meeting itself. It was our RB. It was a nice night. I remember feeling really bad because the whole general outrage was that I didn't ask community's opinion about having a camera crew brought to Eastwind. So that was the general outrage. I didn't ask community's opinion about having a camera crew brought to the community. It was always known, and it was in the contract that they wouldn't go to community itself. They would only stay up in Nutbutts. They would only film our business, and anything beyond that was just completely extraneous. So
Okay.
yeah, there was no camera crew.
Camera scary.
Camera scary.
Fox News bad.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How did that affect your reputation after?
Pretty badly. I think some people still treat me and think of me pretty badly to this day for that. I put up a note apologizing. I quit sales and marketing. People told me I was harming the community, and there was pretty general outrage for several days. People would, they just were not happy.
Some people permanently soured on you from that
yeah.
point forward.
Yep.
Right. And it can be very difficult to have a redemption arc.
I didn't.
In some people's worlds.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And which comes back to the people pleasing, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
So continue.
So you dropped sales and marketing manager.
Yep.
What do you fill your time with now? What did you get into?
I did a lot of forestry. I did a boatload of forestry. I also did still did a lot of IT. I did a boatload of forestry. The forestry manager and his assistant at the time, who later became co-managers, they allowed me to train people. So I was working on training new chainsaw people. I was kind of like the trainer meta, sort of. I learned how to use heavy equipment. So I learned how to use the Kubota, and I used that on the ranch. I think I picked up another milking shift or something like that. I did a lot of woodworking. I was splitting yard meta back with forestry. Let's see here.
What'd you like best? What was some of your most enjoyable work? What kind of woodworking were you doing?
Furniture building. Building. Yeah, I built. There's 9 or 10 benches at Eastwind that are made by me.
Heavy outdoor picnic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The cubbies in the back of Latherus were made by me. I worked a lot with my hands. I learned welding. I learned metalworking. I learned the mill, the Bridgeport mill. I've learned the metal lathe.
And that was working under Don.
That was those two particularly were under Don, but everything else I was working with Steve. Steve, great man. Steve's the realist, truly good person. But I was working with him, and he taught me a lot about metalworking, a lot about fixing machines. So let's see here. What else did I do?
Yeah, let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
How was the social scene for you? Maybe just starting right there. The flow of visitors that come in, new people. Lots of young people coming through, wanting to learn things. How did you like that?
Social scene? I work a lot, so I didn't do much of the social scene. My social scene was like drinking at RB or over at the music room, or hanging out and smoking or playing cards or whatever. I mean, with all the visitors, I definitely met a lot of people. I met a couple partners that came through. I learned a lot about. I didn't get to teach visitors because it's kind of frowned on to you get somebody new in, brand spanking new, within 6 or 3 months, and you teach them how to use a table saw, and then there's the infamous story about the guy that cut his foot off or cut half his foot off that was a visitor, and then all of a sudden nobody can mow a lawn, no visitor can mow a lawn, or no guest can mow a lawn. So there wasn't a lot of teaching, but there was a lot of working with people like that. So I guess one of the other things I learned was that I was queer. So I didn't really know, like, before Eastwind. I guess I had a different view on love and a different view on life with other people in that context. I don't know. I'd never thought about that before, and it like there's only 70 people around you. Like you gotta find something.
So do you think there was something special about that context, or were you also in a place in your life where you were kind of like coming out from this super stressful crunch job and like kind of freeing yourself up?
Maybe a little column A, a little bit of column B.
Had you ever worn a skirt before you had been at Eastman?
No.
Right. Okay.
I wanted to.
And you saw other men.
Honestly, like one of the things like my ex and I had talked about like semi-frequently was like how terrible it is that skirts aren't like more socially acceptable off the farm. Like I would love to wear a skirt to work. I would still love to wear a skirt. I have a couple of skirts. Like I'm gonna wear them around the house. I'm not gonna wear them to work, but I'm gonna wear them around the house. Yeah.
And that would that have been the first place you saw male-bodied people wearing unconventional clothing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I mean, internet.
Sure.
But, yeah.
In meeting people who do that, and it was regular as fuck.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, and that was like so different. That was another thing. Like that was so different for me, and it was just like I was super uptight. Holy shit, I was so uptight when I first moved to Eastwind. Whew. And it's like, I would say that's one of the other things that changed about me. Like one of the other things that mirror brought up. Like you learn things about yourself and you just be okay with things. Like wearing skirts.
That mirror, you learn to judge yourself less.
I learned to people please less.
Learn to
And
people
it's
please
like
less.
it's more. I come at it from like a people are gonna think I'm weird or bad for wearing a skirt or like or kissing somebody that's male bodied or something like that. Like I come at it from that perspective, but then I guess coming from that crunch, it was just like, fuck it, who cares? Like I had done. I don't know. I don't even know where I don't even know what I want to say. It's just like it was just freeing to give up on it. And it was just one of the things I learned was to just completely give up on it.
Holding this facade to make the people around you, your family and friends, feel all right.
Right.
Well, let's talk. Okay, so you did drink a bit at Eastwind.
Yeah.
You were a marijuana smoker or a tobacco smoker?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would party sometimes?
Oh, I partied.
Okay. Okay.
Well, more than that too. Like LSD, shrooms. Like let's see here. There was a party. What was it? I was really big into chess when I first moved to Eastwind, and so there was a New Year's party where someone had purchased some. I think it was ketamine from the dark web.
Sure.
And I didn't know that it didn't interact with my SSRI. It interacted really weirdly at the time because I was still taking that. But so on ketamine, I played 16 games of chess in one night. Yeah, so I was just doing this, and everybody else was like rolling or whatever you call that. Everybody was on crazy drugs, and I was like playing chess and drinking and smoking and doing whatever. And I remember that night. That was a fun night. And I think there was a dance party downstairs too, but I didn't go to it. That's another thing I learned about Eastwind, or I learned about myself, that I like dancing. Yeah, dancing's cool.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, you like to party at Eastwind. Maybe talk about your opinions or your interactions, we've already gone through this a little bit of, you had put it earlier as the drunken rumor mill.
Mm-hmm.
There are social groups that kind of revolve around drinking and smoking and such.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you see? What do you think of it? It can create some openness, but it also can create little witch hunts and et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, it's like, gosh, there's not much to do in the Ozarks. So, I mean, you've been there, you were there for a while. Like, there's nothing to do but, like, drink and fuck. And, like, sometimes you work, but then there's, like, those things. And, like, play music and do whatever, but, like, there's those things. You drink and smoke, and you, like, you hang out. That's, like, that's part of your day. That's part of your week. Like, if you want a social scene at Eastwind, it is with alcohol. Like, it... before I left, I sat with a couple people and we counted in more than 1/3 of the community, close to 1/2 of the community is drunk every single day before like 3. Like, we're talking like about 30 people or so are drunk every single day. Yeah. Like, yeah. And some people have been doing it for years. Some people, are just getting into it. And I was seeing myself, like, go into that. And that's, honestly, I like... I'm actually, right now, I'm almost 1 year off cigarettes. I took a bunch of PPA leave. I went to another community. I visited France and bicycled France. And I came back and I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking weed. And I stopped smoking cigarettes almost a year ago, April 2022. So the drunken rumor mill kind of stopped being a thing for me around that time. But it was like the social scene for me at Eastwind completely pretty much halted, like guillotined down at that point.
Because you were sober.
Not sober, but
you weren't
like I wasn't drunk every day before 4 p.m. I wasn't stoned out of my fucking mind. I wasn't like smoking butts out of the fucking ashtray like other people had left behind anymore.
The snipes.
Yeah,
snipes. Grab those snipes.
Yeah.
Coming into Eastwind, you were escaping this insane pressure cooker of a job, and it seems like that was a main impetus to get away and kind of like work on yourself to some degree, learn some new things about yourself. But while living there, reading the bylaws, for example, getting to be there, did you develop any sense of I'm part of a community's movement? I'm participating in a counterculture. Did you really get into that space or have ideas like that?
I wouldn't say counterculture. I would just say like this is what life is. I don't know. Maybe it's less about rebelling against capitalism for me and more about just like my own personal happiness. So I did like. I traveled to, I went to other communities, I went to the Garden in Tennessee. I visited them and lived there for about a month. I went to Twin Oaks for a week. I helped out at Acorn for a couple of weeks. I visited LEF.
This is all prior to becoming a member?
No, this is during a member. I didn't even know
during your PA leave?
Huh?
Oh, while being a member.
While being a member,
okay.
Yeah. I did a Lex trip out to Acorn, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I actually when I went to the Garden in Tennessee, that was on PA leave. Yeah, that was like August or July of last year, something like that. I spent about a month there.
And what prompted that? Want to decompress from Eastwind, get away for a bit?
I definitely needed to get away from Eastwind. I was in some drama, and there was like all kind of just dumb shit going on, and I just needed to go.
What describe what were some of the biggest conflicts and biggest tensions, and were they held with particular people, or did they all kind of just simply surround particular events, such as that Fox News deal?
Oh gosh, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So on my visitor period, I should have said this earlier. On my visitor period, there was a community meeting about somebody who raped another member, and they were asked to leave. Yeah.
A full member.
A full member, yes, who raped a PM.
Okay.
Yes, and they were asked to leave. And that was on my visitor period.
Right.
So that was a really rough meeting, and I stayed even after seeing that. Like after seeing how the community responded to that kind of situation, I still stayed.
Was that member a member for the time you were there?
No, they left.
They did leave.
They did leave, yeah.
How long had that member lived there?
I think they were a full member. I couldn't tell you beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was that. I think that's still referenced. That particular person in that particular meeting is still referenced to this day. But obviously, it was a big thing at the time. I was a brand new baby PM, so I was like, not privy to all the talkings and goings on. I was busy with my own shit, like learning Eastwind, so I didn't know much about it. This person raped that person, they kicked them out. Like, that's the only thing I got of it.
Well, they left.
Yeah, they were social pressured out, they left, whatever. They weren't there anymore.
There was no petition.
No.
Right.
I think one would have gone around.
Sure.
And they attended that meeting, and that person, just they looked everyone in the eye that got to, talk to them and talk shit to them, and like, obviously, it's a terrible thing that they did, I honestly think Eastwind should have called the cops. And that wasn't the only rape meeting we had while I was at Eastwind. There was another person that raped more people, like the different person, and that person was asked to leave. And
they left through social pressure as well?
They and their partner left, yeah, through social pressure. And actually, Eastwind gave them $3,000. Yep, they petitioned $3,000.
They walked around with their own petition.
They walked around with their own petition.
Money to leave.
Yep. I don't remember if I was a full member at that time or not. I don't remember. So those were two big dramas that happened. There was, let's see here. Do you want to talk about any things around those two? Like, any questions?
What comes to mind? That's pretty, to get into that, I feel like that was pretty straightforward in what happened.
Yeah.
Hearing that the process wasn't drawn out and that the people at least accepted what they did to some degree and left, I don't know, that's at least...
The cops were not called.
Right, there was no charges made.
Those people are still walking around to this day.
Were people calling for charges to be brought?
Yeah.
Okay. When that was brought up in the meeting, what kind of response?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think it might have been it might have been the old adage of, if we call the cops on a rapist here, they'll investigate us more. It might have been that, but that could be I could be misremembering.
There's general anti-cop sentiment.
Oh yeah,
no one wants cops down there.
Right.
And the cops don't really want to deal with Eastwind either.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like we deal with that ourselves, for better or for worse.
Yeah, good point. There was a truck stolen. There was in the next county over, this crazed drug addict stole a truck. They brought it to our county. On the back of that truck, it was a dually, a big monster like dually. On the back of that, they hooked up a trailer with a couple of generators in it that they found, that they stole as well. And then they brought it down through Eastwind proper No shit. This is broad daylight. Actually, early in the morning, on a really cold day. I think this was in January or I think it was February 2022. Yeah, February 2022, I think that was. They drove it down, did some donuts around the burn pile in front of the music room, and luckily all the gates on Ranch were open, and so they drove down through Ranch, tore down through the pastures, and they were gonna start to drive up. They started to drive up the creek. No shit. They like drove the truck into the creek, and they started to drive up the creek to try and get away. Nobody knows and that there was like drama building, like over the winter at Eastwind. Drama fucking builds, and it builds and builds and builds because everyone is in, and there's no new energy going, and this just completely dissipated that. Yeah, after this was not an Eastwinder. This was not an Eastwinder.
Right.
This was just a random crazy drug addict from the next county over. Like, they caught him.
Outside Anti-Hero provided a nice pressure release for that winter.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. We were also like, we had also discovered sledding. We took the on that same day that was happening. We were trying to blow off more steam. And so we took the hood of an old car that was sitting up in the resource yard. Thank you, up in the resource yard. We took that and we flipped it over and we tied it to the back of one of the trucks. And then we took some canoes and tied that to the back of the hood that we tied to the truck. And we put this truck into 4-wheel drive and we fucking gunned it around all of the pastures and the loop, and I think I still have some of those videos. And that was the same day. Oh, what an amazing day. What a great day.
So you went on this amazing trip in France, biking. You came back to Eastwind off PA leave.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these last months you were at, or last half year or so,
sure, at
Eastwind. Coming back, and then when did you really start seeing the writing on the wall and start making different plans?
Oh, before I left. Like, this was, I knew Eastwind wasn't going to be for my forever home before I left on PA leave. I saw the writing on the wall. Like, right when I quit smoking was just like the moment. It was just like the I don't know, like the switch turned on, the lights came up, all the cockroaches left, and like I fucking see what it was doing, and like, is this really gonna be the rest of my life? Like, I don't think it's gonna be the last community I live at or that I help with, and I'm still actually right now actively looking for some people in Philly. There's a couple of communities I'm trying. I'm not gonna go live there, but I definitely want to help. And there's a community gardens network around Philly that I want to work with, and like local farmers that I want to help with. And so like, I knew that wasn't the end all be all for all communities in the world. Eastwind was not it. And
is there an end all be all of any community?
The death of capitalism. I'm kidding.
I mean, are you really looking for that utopia, or
what? The death of capitalism?
No. Every community is going to have its problems,
or
have its different structures and different cultures. When you say end all be all, you don't mean like there's one structure that's going to be. This will revolutionize the world.
No.
Okay.
No, you don't change. You don't change a place. You change things within yourself. And if everybody changes things in themselves, like, love grows, and that's how community grows. You fix relationships, you talk, you work through problems in that way. You don't, like,
You look in that mirror.
Yeah.
You take a good hard look in that mirror.
Yeah, that's what you do. You don't, there's no utopia. There's only like, there's a utopia here and here. That's it. That's all you can change. Now, if I did have a magic wand, and the one thing I could change about Eastwind, I would wave my magic wand and I would regrade the floor in RB so that it drains down in front of the sanitizer, and so that you could mop that floor. That's the only thing I would change.
And do the same in the shower house, in
And
the public shower, and have
yes.
a long drain that the
Yep.
whole floor drains.
That is the only thing, the one single solitary sole thing that I would change about Eastwind is regrading the floor in RB.
If you had that magical wand.
If I had the magic wand. Yep. I regret that. Had I been able to do it all over again, if I could do it all over again, I would have changed here, and I would have, all the dramas that would have gone on, I would have just let them, here you go, you can have it. You know, you can, this thing I feel incredibly passionate about, this thing that I'm like so drawn to, that makes me want to get up in the morning, that brings the breath of life into my body, I would have said, you can have it. And I would have gone off and I would have worked with Otto and I would have worked with Steve.
Non-attachment.
Yeah.
Community is a place to work on yourself, to foster love in your heart, to look the mirror we keep talking about.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing at Eastwind, you know. That was a little bit of graffiti written on in the workout room that's no longer there, I think, but it said, see a problem with community? Go look in a mirror.
Oh, yeah, it's still there.
Right?
It's
right?
still there.
If you see a problem, look at yourself. Where is that? So Eastwind is very transitory. You come in, you come out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to a former member about this while I was a member at Eastwind, and she was saying, Eastwind's a fucking cauldron. It's a fucking pressure cooker where you become a fucking badass, where you are in this amazing laboratory and you can follow all these different things, learn all these different things, and have all these interactions and experiences, and you can grow as a person. And I, at the time, said, no, read the bylaws. This is a communities movement. We are here to build community. We are here to spread community. I want to create more places like this.
Yeah.
So where is, in your mind, if there is one, we can spend lots of time in front of that mirror, but when do you put it aside for a moment and you do look at the environment you're in, and how do you make determinations about like, I want to change this or I want to change that, you know? Someone has to be pushing it, right? Someone has an idea, they get excited about it, they get some sort of democratic support, or if you're in a consensus system, you get a consensus support. When you're looking at the system and not so focused on yourself,
Yes.
you know, what does that look like? It's a poorly worded question. I'm not sure.
Are you asking me to describe how the community like go ahead to do something works? Or are you looking for more?
Where do you stop with? Oh, I'm gonna let this go and not deal with it. To we need to change this about our community.
When it's on fire.
We need to change this about it. Someone just got raped.
Yeah.
And we need to fucking change something about this. I'm not looking at my mirror right now. I'm looking at you.
The answer for Eastwind is when it's on fire, but I think the answer should be much sooner. The problem with a place like Eastwind is that it's a revolving door. You know, it's a constantly changing cast of characters that the plot changes so frequently, where 70 people are on the same page for 1 month, and then 3 of them leave and 3 new people come in, and that new energy is changed just enough to tip it in another direction. And then the next month 3 people leave and 3 new people come in, and then now there's 6 new people and 6 less people from that community that was 6 months ago or 2 months ago.
Sure.
And it's like you can't control that. Like obviously, like you have to look at like, okay, these people were fucking raped. Like, we allowed this to happen. This is a thing that has occurred not once, not twice, but more times here. Like, what can we do to fix this problem? Like, the only way is to just, I guess, continue talking about it. I don't know. You can't control people. You cannot control people, and that is the bottom fucking line. And you can't wave a magic wand, like I said earlier. You can't regrade the floor by snapping your finger. And you can't, like, I guess the vetting process has to be a little different at the outset. And there were changes in the vetting process for community. There was one other piece of drama I can say. There was a convicted child molester found on the grounds in, I think he was doing his visitor period. And the U.S. Marshals straight up came, oh yeah, buddy. The U.S. Marshals straight up came on site and were like, they were like, where is this person? And we were like, he's over there. Yup.
Go ahead and take him.
Take him.
You go ahead and take him now.
Yeah, yep. And luckily, we got friends in Ozark County somewhere, and they wrote in the local newspaper that that he was found on another road. Like, he was somewhere else. He was just picked up on this other road. Yeah, I know. Luckily, he wasn't found at Eastwind. The guy wasn't there. But, like, in his visitor letter, the dude he wanted to work with kids. So he was good. Yeah.
Oh my
God.
God.
Yeah. So it could potentially have happened again. And so after that incident, they changed the onboarding process. Now every visitor has to go through a background check. So that's one thing that changed for the better, and I guess in some ways. But what are the other things? Like the vetting people over, I don't know, over what they. Or I know we're also asking more questions now in the visitor letter itself.
Okay.
So that's another thing that has changed. It like to specifically get into like violence on that regard. Those things have changed, but for other things, I don't know. Like,
it's hard to
quantify the answer to your question because
Right.
everything's so esoteric. It's so nebulous to try and pin down one answer.
Right. And like you said, the transitory nature of it.
Yeah.
You don't have the time to develop stable relationships with robust feedback systems where you start seeing someone go off the rails, start drinking too much, start working too hard, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And there can be trusted people to come in and say, hey, like what's,
Yeah, I mean,
subbing that off, and then also like, I see these two people at a party, mm-hmm. and this is, I'm sober enough, and I'm also trusted enough that I can say, hey, I'm gonna put my arm around you, and the person you've been with is gonna walk away.
Sure.
Let's get these two people away from each other because that seems like trouble. Okay.
So to answer your question absolutely directly, people were starting to see me go off the rails at the very end. I hated living there. I fucking hated it. I only stayed around because people cooked my food, and I was ending up like a couple. I don't know. There's a couple of people at Eastwind, and if you ever go to Eastwind, you know these people that they just kind of exist in the background, and they're sort of like the counterculture to the counterculture, and they're like passively resisting, but not really, and it's just kind of stagnant. They feel it's the way that they can fight in that manner. I was really defeated, and in those people that stay in the background and fight that way, or don't have anything better to do, or don't want to do anything different, that's the way that they coped with how Eastwind has shown them themselves. I went pretty, I went pretty erratic, although I felt like I was developing some pretty good, what do I want to call it? I felt like I had developed a coping mechanism after I came back from PA leave. I developed like, I broke, I went on PA leave and I came back and I developed a coping mechanism. I stopped drinking, I started working out every day, I stopped smoking everything, and you know, I put my nose to the grindstone, stopped doing a lot of social stuff. And I was going off the rails. I was like, I don't know. At one point I had, I don't know.
You're going off the rails with, you're doing these water projects, you're working out a ton.
Yeah.
And you're going off the rails in that you're not sleeping enough, or you're just like only doing these things and not interacting.
I was fucking hating living at Eastwind and just hating the people around me. And like, I don't know, acting out. Acting out in ways that were really unhealthy. Really unhealthy. Like, I remember there were some people driving along the main road once in one of the farm trucks, and you know, I was walking along the side of the road, and they did this. They were doing this little thing where they would like whirve over and then go to the other side, and then whirve over and then go to the other side, and then whirve over and the other side. And I was like, fuck it. So I laid down in the middle of the road. And they stopped the car, and they're like, okay, or I don't even remember what happened. So they stopped the car. I think they honked the horn or said something to me or something, and I got up and I went on my fucking business. I had my banjo with me. I think I was going to play music or something. So that's like, I don't know. That's a good example of how kind of acting erratically I was becoming. And I had started to drink again. Like the peer pressure had started me on, you know, like, okay, maybe this one day I busted my ass for, you know, 9 hours today. Maybe a beer, I can have a beer. And that's where it started. And I was, you know, another 30 rack, and, you know, I'm right back into it.
Yeah.
Right back into it. And I saw myself just hating it and acting out and just like talking to people really shitty and like just acting terribly. And I knew that was it. And it was time for me to go. I developed some coping skills that helped me out here, like working out every day. I still work out every day. I still don't drink all the time. I still don't smoke anything. I still don't do any other kinds of drugs. Like, I play music every day. I don't know.
So you were able, like, without major incident, to gather your things, the many things you had brought, and leave.
Well, no. Oh, right. I forgot. They took me to a meeting. Yeah. I got yelled at for 2 hours and told how I was a shitty person. And in that meeting, a bunch of drunks looked around. I looked around at a bunch of drunks, and I was like, I don't care about these fucking people anymore. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry about me acting erratically. I'm so sorry about a lot of the things that I did. I feel really bad about some of the things that I did. Not others, but some of the things. But at the very end of that meeting, I left. I went to my room. I think I slept for 2 days. I wrote a small note, put it on the board that said I was leaving, and just said some things that people wanted to hear. I said I was they'd called me dangerous in the meeting, so I said, okay, I'm dangerous. They'd called me, I don't even remember anymore. But I basically just agreed with whatever their stupid little list of stuff was in the meeting. I put that note on the board, said I will be gone on this day. I buttoned up all the things I had to do, and I left.
Yeah. Why do you think you still showed up to that meeting? You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen.
Did you kind of want that finality?
I know. I needed to know, man. I needed to fucking know whether it was like... whether it was going to be different. You know? is there something that would have changed? Like, or was I just going to meet the same bunch of drunks yelling profanity and obscenities at people and, you know, projecting their own stuff and like making up stories and lying and all this stuff? When it was turned on me for the second time, like, would it have been different? And it did hit different, you know? It was...
Because you were no longer eager to be a part of the community.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was not. I was not eager to be part of that community at all. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to see if there was, if something could have changed my mind. Yeah.
Okay, so you were maybe...
And finally, I gave up on wanting other people to cook my dinner. That was the minute. That was like, I don't care anymore. I will cook my own fucking dinner. I will go to the store. And that's one reason I'm reaching out to communities around here, farming communities, so I can get decent produce again.
Mm-hmm.
These tomatoes are awful.
Okay, you leave Eastwind.
Yep.
As a 34-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You have a college degree, you have some experience, and you have gotten a good job coming out of Eastwind.
Oh yeah, in the last 2 months. So immediately from Eastwind, I went back to Toledo. I saw my parents, stayed with my uncle, saw my brother, hung out with them, I think, for a month. In that month, for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I looked for jobs here in Philly, because I wanted to come back here. I've been keeping in contact with all my cycling friends, the cycling group I was part of. Like, we're gonna ride together. Like, I'm back with my group. I'm back with my tribe, man.
That's awesome.
Like, that's what I was looking for at Eastwind, was a tribe. And I had it here, man. And now I'm finding musicians. Like, I play music every fucking day. I don't know why I didn't do it at Eastwind. I had all the time in the world to play music and practice every single day at Eastwind, and I didn't take it. I squandered it. Yeah.
There were fewer musicians there, though, when you were there, right? Or,
yeah.
I mean, Petey had left.
Yeah.
Right.
Petey had left. I mean, there was...
So you really would have had... It was not a critical mass of, like, someone always hanging out jamming.
True. I mean, whenever Petey rolled through, I dropped what I was doing, and I went and jammed with Petey.
Good decision.
Yeah. It was never led to a bad night. I learned how to use ChatGPT to write my cover letter. So ChatGPT wrote hundreds of cover letters. I had... No, maybe not hundreds. I had a goal of at least 10 applications a day, fully furnished applications a day. So for 8 hours a day, I would search for jobs in and around Philly and the surrounding areas, and I had ChatGPT write all that. I had a fucking killer resume. Like, Eastwood is an amazing resume builder if you want it to be. Like, and like I have a great resume before I came to Eastwind. Found a job, moved here, found an amazing apartment right down the road from my job. It pays really well. It's really easy. I'm gonna have a lot of downtime, and I like my new job. Like, I'm meeting a lot of cool people. I'm working. I mean, I don't like the company I work for, but you know, there is no ethical consumption in capitalism, and I'm back here in capitalism. So I'm gonna keep my nose down, and I'm gonna work. I'm gonna play the banjo, and I'm gonna work on, you know, community. That is my job. Is just gonna be the wall job. It's gonna be the job, but everything else is gonna be me. That's just what I do from 8 to 4 every day.
What do you appreciate most about your experience at Eastwind?
The mirror. mirror. Yeah. I would I would do a couple of things differently, but I'm glad I learned the way I did.
Does the mirror fall away coming back into the city? Do you have to
No.
do you have to manifest it, or are you very comfortable with it now, and you don't necessarily need other people?
It's not there like all the time. At Eastwind, it's there every second. Like I was constantly like changing my behavior and my idea on life and everything just to grow. Like, okay, this situation happened, I need to be okay with it. Like, this other thing happened, I need to be okay with it. This other thing happened, I need to be okay with it. And eventually it's just like, I'm okay with stuff. I'm okay with me. I fucking love me. Anything that we didn't touch on? I touched on some of the bad stuff. I avoided a lot of drama that happened to me and other people. I don't hate Eastwind. I don't really resent it. Like,
You hate some of the people.
I don't say hate. There's one person. There's one person. And it's not who you think.
We'll talk about that off camera. Okay.
Sure. But, I mean, other than that, like, Eastwind's great. Go fucking live there. Like, but use it. It's meant to be like if you can
choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Like, if you want to choose your adventure to be part of the communities movement, if you don't have anything else going on, like, then you know, use it for that. Use it as a thing for your life. Like, and build your life around that community and the communities movement as a whole, and the FEC and the FIC, and like bringing people together and love and understanding and peanut butter and growing your own food and all this other fun stuff, amazing stuff. But if you've got other shit going on, fucking go do your other shit. I don't know.
To the burnt out and the burning out
Yeah.
professionals out there, the people in their 20s and 30s and maybe even 40s, who are like, I am fucking sick of living in this shit apartment, doing this shit commute, and doing this shit job. What advice do you have to those people who might be considering community in general, and maybe something specific to Eastwind if they're considering Eastwind?
Oh, wow. Oh. To all those people out there that are considering doing that, do it. That's it. Do it. Take the leap. Like, what do you have to lose? Your shitty fucking life? Your shitty fucking job? Like, your terrible relationships? Your bad apartment? The city you live in? Like, what? The stuff that you have? Like, what the fuck do you have to lose? When the road looks